Right, welcome to this workshop. Delighted to be your moderator for this workshop. Thank you for being with us about regional dynamics and are they an efficient lever for the future of work. We just had some very interesting foresights into the world of work in the future, and we're delighted to have with us three speakers. I'll introduce them a bit more for each of their presentations. Jordana A.HARRISS, Stephen Colborne, and Thibaut DUCHêNE. Thibaut, we're going to start with you. So three presentations and afterwards a general chat with some questions. Thibaut, you're the Deputy to the General Manager at le Cnam and Digital Vice-President of HESAM Université. Au cœur des territoires, a training program was launched to support the transformation of skills and professions to give each individual the keys to becoming a key player in his or her career path and to provide solutions adapted to the economic and social challenges that we've just been hearing about in the general presentation. So if you could talk about au cœur des territoires, I don't know how you translate that to English, the heart of the territories. We'll listen to your presentation. Thibaut, c'est à vous.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for hosting this meeting today, which is very important for the future by collecting different policies around Europe. The Cnam, I give you a few figures about the Cnam, a quick overview. The Cnam was founded in 1794 by Abbé Grégoire. It was a public initiative and it still operates under the supervision of the Ministry of Higher Education. We have a vision, our DNA is based on the faith in technology and science as key factors of social inclusion. We have a strong link with the industry and we have high quality standards, which is against the usual image of vocational training. Our activities, the core activities, lifelong learning, the technology and management, for instance. It is based for population above 18 years old from the equivalent of the 30th grade of PhD level, to PhD level, sorry, and vocational training for the younger. Besides being the leading player in this field, the Cnam plays a leading role in the framing of continuing education and certification system in France, in close link with the Ministry of Higher Education, the Ministry of Employment, and the Employers Union and the largest corporation. And we have also a big field in research and diffusion of technical and scientific culture. For instance, you can come to Paris and visit, well, not now, it's closed because of the COVID, but you can visit the Museum of Science of Technology, which is in Arts et Métiers, which is our name. We have more than 18,000 students in France, 5,000 teachers, 50% of them are still working for private companies. Cœur de territoire, heart of territory, is mainly based on the idea that we need to develop professional training closer to local needs. The diagnosis was very simple. It began in 2016, and if you remember, in France there was later in 2018, 2019, a kind of crisis, the yellow vest crisis, which was based on the lack of professional mobility of people in little towns, middle-sized towns all around France. We believe that middle-sized towns have a high potential in terms of territorial development. But the thing is that in France, according to the system of meritocracy, which is giving a big space to grandes écoles and the university in the metropolis, most of higher education institutions are based in the main metropolitan centers, which gives people in the middle town the lack of professional mobility, the lack of job, and geographical mobility. Therefore, we observe a real lack of adequate training program offers in middle-sized towns that cause an out-migration of the youth towards large cities and the recruitment difficulties among local companies. So we saw that there was a real need to develop a proper lifelong training offer in the middle-sized town and increase local people's employability. The Cnam ID for rural and semi-urban territories is Au cœur des territoires. This is now a national program designing to develop a large training offer in the heart of middle-sized town as closely as possible of local needs. And the philosophy behind the project, through a large-scale improvement of local workers, the development of a local offer in higher education and lifelong trainees, we favor the economic growth of those middle-sized towns. We don't need big university in this little town. We need just a few training programs that will give the opportunity to people to stay in the cities and to continue to work in the cities. That is very important. The method was really new in the environment of higher education. We started to work with local politics. Since 2019, several calls for expression of interest addressed to middle-sized town authorities, and we saw that we got their attention. We saw that first of all they were thinking that the territorial program was only being set on trying to attract new companies, but without skills, without people working in this middle-sized town, no firms will come to this place. So we needed to make them understand that the investment likely known much be bigger in the skills investment. It means that we don't have to put some money only on some fabrics, but also on people to make them more skilled. The process for each new establishment, we address local needs and opportunities locally with new profession, short staff job, local companies requirement, and we set up a customized training offer for each territory. So this is really craft that we're making for each territory. To sustain this process, we have a multi-scale partnership, which is very new in the environment of higher education. We work with the French government because the French government set a really big program for middle-sized town, which is called Programme Action Cœur de Ville, and lately Territoires d'Industrie, which is really based on the reindustrialization of France. You know, there was a big interest of the French politics because of the lack of the French government to set, for example, a vaccine or the lack that we have when we didn't need masks, and there was a big push to say, okay, we need to reindustrialize our country. And we work with local companies and professional organizations, especially the short-term labor organizations such as the ADECO Group or Manpower, and the education actors and local association. As a result, we made the first call for expression in interest in 2019. We thought that we have only, 30 or 35 or 40 towns that would be interesting. We are more than 120 applications from local municipalities, and we were really impressed that the change of mind of the local authorities toward the training programs. We selected on first instance 55 towns. Now that we are now at 65 because there is another code of expression that is currently in process. We have, since 2019, opened 30 new centers, which is really big in the scale of higher education, and we have 1,800 new learners that are registered in this middle-sized town. This means that we make a year 70,000 students, and there are almost 2,000 that comes from this middle-sized town. This is almost 2,000 people that have a chance to succeed that they won't have if we didn't have launched this program. A second call for expression a second call for expression of interest is currently in process, and furthermore, I think that the real effect of this program is that we have stressed the point of the lack of training program in middle-sized town, and now a lot of institutions, and especially the Ministry of Higher Education with the Campus Connecté, is making a step towards this middle-sized town to launch different kind of program, digital kind of program based on the digital expression of a training program, or based simply on trying to work with companies for little class of people that can go through a training program. So, you know, the motto of the Cnam is that we can teach everyone, that the Cnam is teaching for everyone and everywhere. So we have been quite faithful to this motto. But furthermore, we have, I think we changed a bit the life of people in the middle-sized town, and basically we have changed a bit also the image, the representation of the meritocracy that we have in France. You know, in France you have the meritocracy that is really based on what you've done between 18 and 25, and the core action of the Cnam is to work with people that are between 18 and 35, 40, 50, and you can say, okay, you can change your life at every time because you can have 3 or 4 different jobs in a lifetime. And basically, if you're in a middle-sized town, you can change your life really easily. So I think that's what we've done best in this program.
Right, thank you. I was noting down the interesting things that you were saying to do a wrap-up. Thank you very much indeed, Thibaut, for that presentation. We're now going to be hearing from 2 specific programs, one from France, one from the UK, which foster cooperation between PhD students and municipalities or local companies, just in the same way that Thibaut was talking about. Both these experiences bring research capacities to non-research organizations and help them address key practical challenges that they would otherwise have had difficulties to address. So first one, I'm going to hand over to Jordana A.HARRISS. We're delighted to have you with us. You are a policy officer at HESAM Université. You used to advise local authorities on sustainable urban planning. Now you are fostering cooperation between local authorities and researchers at local, national and European levels. You're going to tell us about the 1000 doctorants pour les territoires, which is a national program in France that sends young researchers to local administrations to do their PhD. So I'll hand over to you, Jordana.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning to you all. So I'm first going to tell you what this project is about, then why it is relevant when having an event on the role of higher education institutions in working for future youth employability, and I will end by giving you some international insights. So first of all, what it is about. So 1000 doctorants pour les territoires is a national program to increase the number of young researchers doing their PhDs in local governments or NGOs. PhD candidates are given the opportunity to do a long course research action work for a local administration. They are employed by the municipality or any other type of local public institutions for 3 years. That would be the entire time of their doctoral studies. and the local authority can receive a state grant of 14,000 euros per year, and that would cover half of the doctoral student salary. What do we do? What we do is to inform both students and local stakeholders about this state subsidy, which is mainly used by private companies, though local authorities are also eligible, but do not know it, and so do not use it. And another big part of our actions is, matching supply and demand. We developed an internet website for local authorities to match with PhD candidates. So it's basically Tinder for PhDs. Why are we doing this? Can you hear me well? Yeah. Why are we doing this? Well, first of all, because in France, 1/3 of doctoral students in the humanities and social sciences start their doctorate without funding. But also, thinking long term, we do know not everyone will be able to have an academic career. There are simply not enough jobs. So we need to prepare now the future researchers to have a job outside academia. And while doing that, they are developing new skills. For example, learning to speak and write for an elected official, learning to communicate complex scientific thoughts, but in a simple way, and above all, carrying out research encoded in very real territorial realities per se. So let's give you some example. Here are a few offers we received on the website, for example. A local authority is looking for a PhD candidate to work on an age-friendly city, what others we called the silver economy. Another example would be a PhD candidate who wants to work on the dynamic of small businesses in the heart of medium-sized cities, the same one Thibaut DUCHêNE was talking about. So you see, it's very linked to this era of transitioning towards a more sustainable future, more inclusive, fairer. So HESAM Université has created this project in 2017 with the financial support of the French Ministry of Research. And in only 4 years, the number of local authorities and NGOs hiring PhD candidates with that state subsidy has more than doubled. So to wrap up, this is a French project, but we know of other similar initiatives around the world. For example, there is a municipal PhD project in Sweden, or another one called the Knowledge Transfer Program in Cape Town, South Africa, or the Future Cities Node in Australia. For example, to go a bit deeper on the Swedish example, it was a 3-year project, very local, in the Skåne region of Sweden. It was about 7 municipality organizations that were involved with 3 universities, and actually it was the municipality, just the same as us, who set it up the research team for each PhD project. In 1000 doctorants pour les territoires, it can either be the municipality or the PhD candidate, and usually it's both. And then same as for 1000 doctorants pour les territoires, PhD students were recruited by the municipal organization, and were keeping where they keep working part-time with their regular task, and then pursuing their PhD on part-time, so it was 50-50. So that's it. You have there's a very interesting source about this one. You should read David Simon, and it's from Bristol University Press. It's a new book on this, and very interesting. But so here you have a few links if you want to find out more. But much closer to us, there is an initiative in England that Stephen is going to tell you about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Merci beaucoup, Jordana. Thank you for that interesting overview and the links that you have provided. As you said, we'll go to the UK now with Stephen Colborne, who's Placements and Partnerships Officer for the Chase Doctoral Training Partnership. You oversee the Chase Placement Scheme at training and development opportunities provided by Chase to arts and humanities doctoral researchers. Chase covers London and the southeast of England, and I think, Stephen, you're based at the University of Sussex in Brighton. So you're going to tell us how Chase is training the next generation of arts and humanities researchers. Over to you.
Thanks, Alex. Hello, everyone. So I'm hoping to pick up on some of the threads started in Thibaut and Jordana's talks and offer a case study of how Chase supports doctoral researchers. The thesis of my talk, such as there is one, is that regionality is important, but not necessarily at the expense of student ambitions. So Chase is the Consortium for the Humanities and the Arts in South East England. It's funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council, which is in turn funded by UK Research and Innovation, which is in turn funded by the UK government. Chase is ultimately therefore a public funded project. It's a collaboration between 9 institutions based in London and the southeast of England, although, as you'll see from the map on screen, referring to East Anglia as southeast England is clearly stretching the definition to breaking point. The project is coordinated by the University of Sussex in Brighton, which is where I'm joining you from today. Chase has received 2 separate awards from the AHRC of approximately £17 million each. We started operating in 2014 and worked to 5-year cycles, although our current grant has been extended by 2 years due to COVID-19. The AHRC is currently funding 10 doctoral training partnerships across the UK, of which Chase is obviously one. They are broadly distributed across regions of the UK, but they're not necessarily exclusive to their regions. For example, there are 3 AHRC doctoral training partnerships covering London and 2 that cover the southeast. So we're certainly not the only arts and humanities doctoral training partnership operating in our region. And as I hopefully will elaborate, Chase is informed by its regionality, but not necessarily driven by it. So as you can see on the left, Chase's agenda is already somewhat determined by our funder, the AHRC. We're required to, and principally designed to, award PhD studentships to arts and humanities researchers. We currently award about 55 studentships each year, and each of those studentships comprises a stipend at a standard rate defined by UKRI. And they also receive their tuition fees, of course, as well. Until 2020, we offered tuition fees only awards to EU researchers, i.e. they didn't get a stipend, but did get their tuition fees covered. We're no longer doing that, but from September 2021, we can now offer up to 10% of our awards each year to international students. And there's no prizes for guessing what drove that particular policy change. And this is what the AHRC and, by extension, UKRI require us to offer. In addition, on the right-hand side, you'll see what the Chase-specific offer is. So we have an optional, fully funded placement scheme that enables placements of up to 6 months for our researchers. Placements do not need to relate to the researcher's specialism, are primarily training and development opportunities, and are hosted by local, national and international organisations. We also offer a range of training and development opportunities that are intended to help researchers complete their PhDs and also to prepare them for their career plans post-PhD. We facilitate student networks that enable researchers to form personal and professional relationships with researchers in their field or who share particular interests. And these networks are not restricted to the researchers we fund. Examples of these include the Chase Feminist Network, the Climate Action Group, and our Decolonisation Network. We also have a knowledge exchange hub, which is effectively a shop front for the knowledge exchange work that we have supported. And it features many case studies and how-to guides that are intended to encourage students, but also external organisations to consider the possibility of working with Chase on offering these sorts of opportunities like placements. Our virtual learning environment makes our training accessible to people with caring responsibilities, work commitments, disabilities, and so forth, who are unable to attend our in-person events. And as you can imagine, it's proven invaluable during COVID. This is a small selection of the organisations that we've worked with. On the left, you'll see some of the big international organisations. The top right are some of the international higher education and non-government organisations, NGOs that we've worked with. And the bottom right are organisations that are actually based in the region of the UK that we cover. But clearly it is a mixed ecology. We're informed by our regionality, but not necessarily driven by it. Our main drivers are students. They frequently lead on brokering contact with these organisations and setting up the placements they're keen to do. To give a couple of examples, the link with Berkeley came from a creative writing PhD student who wished to spend 6 months as a research assistant to a professor of creative writing at Berkeley. And the Essex and Norfolk's records offices came about because 2 PhD students wanted to do placements developing their archival skills with their local records offices. We're also currently recruiting for a placement as a community outreach officer for a Living Well with HIV project that is currently running in Brighton in the UK. On the other hand, we've got a student who is going to be starting a placement with the National Gallery next month. The BBC link relates to a collaborative doctoral award that we organised where the PhD student has a PhD student supervisor at a Chase institution, but also a supervisor at the BBC as well. So there's more substantial collaborations with external partners. The project is researching poetry on the BBC between the 1930s and the 2000s and is using the BBC archive. To summarise, Chase is a regionally based but outward-looking doctoral training partnership. We are keen to use the projects that we support to support our local communities and our region. We're also keen to enable our students to locate their research as they prefer to, whether that's locally, nationally, internationally, or a mix of those. As I say, we're informed by our regionality, but we are not necessarily driven by it. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you to yourself. Thank you very much to all three of you for those interesting presentations. I have a few questions. We have about 10 minutes for a discussion, so please feel free to ask any questions. If I can ask you for quick answers, obviously, we don't have too much time. But maybe if I could start with Jordana or Thibaut. Jordana, I'll start with you. Do you have an example give us a few more concrete examples? I think that would be helpful to understand exactly what you've been doing. If you can talk us through a few concrete examples of the kind of help that you've been given. Jordana, and maybe Thibaut afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. But well, for example, we have, an architect who is doing her PhD in a small rural area in Burgundy. On the energy renovation of private and public buildings. So she's helping both inhabitants and the municipality on this specific topic. And so she's kind of she has two feet on the mud really, and she's really grounded. She's an architect in the field. So that's for an example. Or another one we have in Ile-de-France, which is the region around Paris. She's doing a PhD on how you integrate water and biodiversity issues into development of in a dense urban context. So that's for 2 examples of PhDs we helped created, and we helped both the student with their idea of the subject they wanted to do, but also to match them with a local municipality or organization to do their PhDs.
I mean, if somebody's watching us, what would be the first steps if a student would like to do a PhD in a local authority? What should they actually do?
Well, he or she can either contact us. We have a telephone or hotline, or go to the matchmaking website directly. And he or she will find useful information, such as, for example, an illustrated guide that for setting up a PhD with a local authority, or also recordings of webinars we made on discovering the website, or even testimonies of doctoral students and elected officials in video, podcasts, written articles. And then he or she will have to create an account, and it's easy. You just have to create an ad by filling in a form. And what's the cool thing is that the website was co-constructed with elected officials, doctoral students, and researchers to ensure that relevant information was presented, but in a simple enough way to be accessible to all. So once the offer is approved by us, well, the magic of matchmaking can happen.
As you said, it's Tinder for PhDs. Okay, Thibaut, you talked about these medium-sized towns in France. Can you give us a few concrete examples of which towns you've been working with at the Cnam?
We've been working, for instance, with Chalon-sur-Saône, which is very famous internationally because of the Burgundy wine, but that had a lack of digital training program or a kind of training program for people, for dropout people who left the university very early. So we made an agreement with the HESAM, which is also a grande école, a part of the HESAM University. We're fixing the bac plus 1 part, so this is a kind of grade 5 in the European scale, and the HESAM is fixing the bachelor program. So we built a campus, kind of a big school based only on digital training program, and we worked on this campus with the industrial factories in Chalon-sur-Saône, and the cooperation that is the UEMN in France that said, okay, we have a lack of people who can handle the factories, but we have also a big lack of skills in digital skills. Sorry. So we've been working on this project. Now we have, I think, more than 40 people that are in the training program for the Cnam, and that will be the same. So this is kind of interesting example, because we operate at a level, and another grande école is working on the other level, so we can have a kind of continuum between the different school. Another example is Cognac. Cognac is very famous around the world.
You're always with wine and cognac.
We're friends.
There's a link going on here.
I was trying to find some example that would appeal you, because I know that cognac is very famous, and you know that you are selling more cognac in the world than champagne, for instance. But cognac has something that is very unclear. But for years, cognac didn't have any program, any training program that was based on the winery, for instance. And moreover, they didn't have any program when you left high school. So they are making now a big step on the higher education. They have built. I'm talking about the local authorities. They have invested a lot of money in different schools, in the digital school, in many subjects, and they called us and they say, okay, we need you. Not to handle the winery program because we have something, not to handle the digital program, we have something. They are working with École 42, which is the big school of digital innovation in France made by Xavier Niel. But we need you for everything that is based on marketing and commercial stuff. So please bring your offer, bring your diploma to Cognac, and please work with all the environment and especially the higher education environment. So this is an interesting example because this is the local authorities that say, okay, we're going to pilot, we're going to supervise the higher education offers in our city.
Okay, thank you very much, Thibaut. And I have a general question. I think would interest people watching us in France for Stephen about the regional dynamics. It's obviously a little bit different between regional dynamics with the capital, Paris, and the regions in France. What about London? And what's the interaction between London and the other regions that Chase covers? Could you talk us through that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, you're absolutely right that because our territory, if you like, includes London, then it does enable us to reach out, nationally, internationally. So there is a sort of a kind of a dialectical dynamic between sort of the local and the regional and the national. And we try to support both, basically. So we have some students who are doing their research that's very sort of locally based, and so we will support them to do that. But also we have students who do have a more sort of international focus. But of course, I mean, the interesting thing is that, I mean, even though London's capital, there are regions within London that are relatively underappreciated. So we have one of our students who has been doing a PhD project on gentrification in Deptford in South London. And so as part of her project, we enabled her to do a placement where she created a book that was aimed at local communities. And I went to a really lovely launch event for that book, which was really celebrating the locality of Deptford, even though it is, within the capital city. So, I mean, it is an interesting dynamic that we grapple with, I think, constantly. But yeah, we, as I said through the presentation, we are very much led by our students' interests and where they lie, and supporting them to do the research they want to do, where they want to do, in the manner that they want to do it.
Okay, perfect. I saw that Jordana and Thibaut were nodding when you said everything was guided by the students' interest. Thank you so much for those presentations. I mean, I'm sure there will be lots more questions and things we could talk about. Unfortunately, our time is a little bit limited. So it's now 12:10. We've moved everything by 5 minutes. So if I can now invite everybody to leave this workshop, and we'll all meet for a wrap up of all three of the workshops at 15:15, whichever time you're watching us on. So see you there. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup à tous.
Merci. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.